If you have ever wanted to draw animation with perspective, I have something really cool to show you. So perspective drawing, it's when you're drawing with three-dimensional depth in mind. It's like looking at something from an angle. For example, instead of looking straight down at a checkered floor where you would just see perfectly straight square shapes, when you're doing perspective drawing, you think of looking at it from a different angle, and the lines kind of all converge at these points, and then it looks like you've got this perspective with depth and dimension to it. So in this video, I want to show you a really cool trick of how to animate a perfect square in perspective that's rotating. First of all, there's something to realize with how a square shape rotates. As a square rotates, all of the corner points travel in the same perfect circle shape, okay? All the points travel in a circle. So what might a circle look like in a perspective drawing? Well, if I take this circle and change the angle and think how to draw it, visually it squashes down and becomes an oval. If I was drawing the circle at an angle like this, I would just draw it like an ellipse shape like this. So what we're going to do is start with an ellipse shape and figure out how to draw a perspective square inside it. And that is going to be our key to animating a square rotating. If I'm imagining that this is a circle that I'm looking at from an angle, and we think about where the center point of this circle would be, you can kind of eyeball it, but let's just say the center of the circle is something like right there. And you can kind of pick however high or low you want it to be. The higher up you make the center point, the more kind of distortion you're going to get, almost kind of the more wide angle it's going to look. Okay, let me show you something. So here I have a perfect circle with a center point in the circle. And then what I want to show you is if you're thinking in terms of a camera, like looking at something through a camera and a lens, depending on how close you are to an object, how far away, how zoomed in you are, how wide angle the lens is, that will change when you're drawing in perspective. That will change where this center point right here, like where you would draw it. So for example, if I'm looking at the paper through a camera and I'm back a little ways, okay, you can see we're getting that oval shape, and the circle in the middle basically kind of looks still pretty centered, like up and down, right? It's maybe just like a little closer visually toward the top. Okay, but now if I go to a wider lens and I come closer, do you see what happens? Visually, as you're looking at this ellipse, the dot is like way visually, it's closer to the top of the circle. And then I'll show you kind of the difference in distortion that will, how that affects the way your square looks. Okay, and now from kind of far back and zoomed in, you can see that's kind of the perspective that you get. But then as we go to a wider angle and we get closer, you can see that, the angle of those lines is just like way more extreme. The point is, because you can just kind of pick wherever you want the center point of your circle to be. You just know that sort of the closer it is to center, it's going to feel like there's very little distortion. And the farther vertical you place that point, it's going to feel wider angle. And you really can think of it in terms of like as if you were looking through a camera lens. Do you want it to feel like you're far back zoomed in, or do you want to feel like you're right up close and it's like a wide angle, and just how much distortion you would get if you're right up close? First thing I'm going to do is draw a straight line across a circle like this. And then I'm also going to draw a vertical line across the circle like this. And now what I do is I'm going to draw a line here at the points where these lines intersect the circle. That's where we're drawing these shapes, and this is going to give us kind of it's going to give us like a diamond shape. Okay, so now at this point, I'm going to find out where my two vanishing points, where they are. Okay, so if I line up my ruler and basically extend this line out to here, I have to use an additional sheet of paper because the vanishing point is going to be a little ways off. And then we do the same thing here. Okay, where those lines meet, that is one vanishing point. And we're going to do the same thing for the other side. But first, what I want to do is I want to draw a line from that vanishing point right through the middle of our circle. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. So again, this is 2-point perspective drawing, and let's try to keep that lined up. Okay, then from that vanishing point, I'm going to line that up to the center, and we're going to draw a line through the circle going that way. So this is what our square looks like from this perspective, but we need to figure out what the square would look like if we rotate it 45 degrees. So we're looking at it like at that kind of straight on angle. So all we need to do now is we look at these points where those center lines intersect the circle, and we just draw a line to those intersecting, from one intersecting point to the other. Okay, so that gives us one line right there, a line like that. And then the same thing for the front and back line. Go to that intersecting point to that intersecting point. Okay, and now right here you can see this is our square shape, looking at it 45 degrees rotated, kind of looking at it straight on. So the next question then is, how do we figure out exactly what the in-between point is between these two positions? And we can just keep drawing more lines and just kind of subdividing, and it will show us exactly the correct position where all these lines should be. So then all you do is you line up your ruler from the center point to see where these lines intersect here. There's like this point and this point, for example. And then you can just even draw like a little tick mark like that. Okay. And then we rotate it and we go to this intersection and this intersection, line that up with the center. And we're just going to draw a little kind of tick mark there, tick mark there. Do the same thing here. Okay, and one more over here. Okay, and then same thing. So we've got the square that's like in this kind of diamond position. Well, if we rotate it over one increment, then that means this line here, if we rotated it one increment over, then all we have to do is start it here, this intersecting point and this intersecting point, right? So we're just going to kind of just going one by one and rotating those lines. And here. And here. So again, if you think of it as these four points, the four corner points that are moving around a circle. So if you look at, okay, here's, one corner of the square, here's one corner of the square. If it's rotating this way, the next position, this point would move to here, and this point would move to here. So we just draw a line from there to there. And basically what we're doing here is we're building ourselves a template that then we can trace on each page. Okay, and I want to go one step further. I'm going to subdivide it just one more time. Okay, and after that, then we'll have a template that we can use to trace onto our Flipbook pages. Okay, so now we've got double the little tick marks around the outside. We're going to do the same thing and draw lines to each of those. And you can basically kind of start at any line. I kind of like to just work counterclockwise, but let's say we start at this line. If that point's going to move over one and over one, then we connect these two. Okay, there. Yeah, it's really easy to miss points. So just look at it carefully and make sure that every perspective square shape looks like it's complete. But then you have a template that you can work with, and this is the foundation of how we're going to make a rotating square with perspective in a flipbook. So next thing we do, we're getting out our light pad. And if you don't yet have your own light pad, well, if you have my Andymation kit, then you already have a light pad. If you don't yet have a light pad like this, you could use a window. You could get some sort of transparent something with a flashlight underneath, or you could get my Flipbook kit. You can get it at Andymation.com or on Amazon. Just make sure you're getting my official Flipbook kit, not any of the copycat knockoffs, because they are not as good. So get the official Animation Flipbook kit. It gives you everything you need to really get into flipbook making. Okay, so now we have our template. So I'm just taping it there so our template stays in place. And then all we have to do is sort of on each page, we're going to trace a different like position of the square, a different set of lines we'll trace onto one page at a time. If you don't have a ruler, you can always just use like an extra sheet of paper as your straight edge. And that is what I'm going to do right now. So for page number 1, I'm going to start with the square just kind of in this straight on position here. And then as you're drawing, you know, whatever point you end at, that you just look at whatever line is touching that point and you just trace that line. And then same thing here, you just look for that line there and connect those 2 points in the back. Okay, so that is page number 1. You could also, this is something that might help actually. I'm gonna put little numbers here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Just gonna number these points. 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is basically will be like an 8-frame cycle, because by the time we get over to this point, number 9, the square will be sort of back in this position again. Okay, and that is page number 2. And we're just going to keep doing that until we get to page number 8. Okay, so that'll be page 3. And then you can kind of see how it's progressing if we just flip through these pages. And that's already kind of cool, right? And it totally looks like a square in perspective, rotating, and that you know that each position that it's in, it actually is a perfect square. And then at this point, our animation looks like that. It's kind of nice to use the paper as your straight edge, because then you can, you know, see through it and see the other lines to kind of help keep track of what you're doing, as opposed to a ruler. As opposed to a metal ruler, you can't see through a metal ruler, obviously. And one more to go for this cycle. And that is page number 8. So what we've got now is one complete cycle, because the next frame after this would look the same as this first one. So now if we just go through again and I just trace over each of these pages one at a time, we can do that several times and we'll end up with, you know, several rotations. Okay, so we're going to call this frame number 9, but again, it's the same as frame number 1, because we're just kind of looping these drawings, and then we can just go like this. But I'm still going to use my paper straight edge. And now trace over frame 2, and we'll make that page 10. And then I'm just going to trace over those first 8 pages 2 more times, and that'll give us a full 360-degree rotation of the square. Okay, so let's see how it looks, and hopefully I've done it right. Isn't that cool? Yeah, I just think that's so cool that by creating that little template with an ellipse shape, kind kind of picking your center point and then drawing all the lines and just kind of intersecting, making yourself that little template. And then following it, you can end up with a cool little rotating perfect square with perspective. I suppose the next thing to do with this would be to maybe make a rotating cube, which I think would be cool to do. But let me know if that's something you guys want to see, and maybe I can do another video where we make a rotating cube. I'm going to go ahead and fill this in and take a look at it one last time. All right, and there is our finished rotating perfect square. The only question now is which color of snap screws that I should screw it together with. If you guys have not seen yet, I now have tons of colors of snap screws. I think for this one, I'm gonna go with Future Purple, which of course is a reference to my future self, who tends to show up in my videos sometimes and be annoying, or well, sure, he thinks he's trying to be helpful. I haven't seen him in a little while, actually, and so I hope everything is fine in the future. And this flipbook is very small, so we're going to go with the smallest size of snap screw. So here is the finished flipbook with a perfect rotating square in perspective. But yeah, this was a really fun thing to try to figure out how to do. I knew how to draw a square in perspective, but the idea of rotating in perspective a perfect square, figuring out how to do that. So figuring out this little oval thing was really cool. But let me know if you guys try this out. If you do try it and you make your own flipbook, be sure to upload it to the Animation app. If you don't have the Animation app, I'll put a link to that down below. You can get that app and share all of your flipbooks in the app with the rest of our flipbooking community, all of you guys. So yeah, thanks for watching. Stay creative, and I'll see you in the next one.